Welcome back. So we've had a couple of days off. As you can see, we've still got a few challenges that we're dealing with, but this hopefully is just a little I don't think I need this is just a little squall going through. Here in Portland it has been stinking hot for the last couple of days. It's been 35 Celsius, which is like 1,000,000 Fahrenheit, and everyone's been just laid out flat. This is not really I don't think most people's living situation is based around like high efficiency aircon around here, so it's pretty uncomfortable. But I've been good. I had a weekend off with the family, which I'm going to be calling that a holiday. That's as close as I'm going to get, but it's been fantastic that Kat and Isaac have driven down and are here with me in Portland before I depart. The boat is still out of the water. You can tell, right? You can see the keel. We'll have a talk about what's going on here with the keel and everything in a second. There's lots of updates, but I'm sheltering right now, so we'll just be quick. But I found out from the guys in the yard, unlike Nova Scotia, the cost of being on the hard is a third of what it is to be in the water, where when I'm in Nova Scotia, it's about the same. So pick being in the water, pick being in the yard, it's all the same. But when I discovered that, it's like, whoa. Just leave it on the hard. It's going to be so much cheaper. So I'm really happy about this because it allows me to do more jobs than I wanted to. So thank you very much to everybody. Let me just try and find dry places for things. Thank you very much for everybody who wrote back and said I was on track with my idea about the primer and the fact that the primer should go on first and then the filler on top of it. I'll 100% stick by that. But we do have one problem. It's not caused by faulty theory. It's caused by faulty preparation of the surface. So there's no other issues anywhere else on the keel with everything I've done. I've got to just touch up around the top. Nothing else anywhere else. So I would have been pissed if I had just finished the anti-fouling job, put the boat in the water, and then like 2 or 3 weeks from now gone down and started to clean it off and inspect it and seen that. Now what is that? That is the fact that it's been very humid at night here, and I had not cleaned this part of the keel properly with acetone when I did the wash. Just let this plane go over. So what have we got here? We've got little pits, little bubbles in the paint here, and then it's been stinking hot like I said, and we've got rust coming out. So we've got that pitted surface with little bits of corrosion. And then when I washed the entire keel, I thought, with acetone to make sure there was definitely no moisture on it before I started painting. But maybe it's not so apparent right now with the water on it. But this is a triangle about this sort of size, about 45 centimeters on a side, maybe 1.5 feet on the side. And I think it coordinates with me wiping the keel here, wiping the keel here, and then wiping the keel here. And basically I missed a bit. It's poor preparation. So then I put the paint on with a bubble of water inside that pitted rusty area. It sealed, it went hard, and then the hot weather has pushed all of that out. So what do we got to do? Well, there's no way that we've done lots of work inside the boat. I'm going to show you. We've done lots of work out here. We've flared the keel. Maybe 50% of the mess in the front of the keel has been flared. But I'm not just going to stick loads and loads of filler in there, because it will not be dry by the time I go into the water, or certainly on the schedule I was running on. I'm not going to go back and do more now. We are looking for the fact that when this comes out of the water in 100 days, whatever it is, we are going to media blast the keel, which has not got any Interprotect on it. We're going to leave the keel bulb. We're going to leave the keel plate itself as is with Interprotect and Antifoul on it, and then we're going to media blast the hull. Oh no, we're not. Actually, people want to know what my quick trick is for getting anti-foul off. Let me tell you, but you don't have to wait 100 days if you're just about to anti-foul your boat now. I guess you have to be Southern Hemisphere. All you do is spray gun wash on the bottom of the boat. Gun wash is like the cheapest form of acetone that you can get, the cheapest thinner. Use it in spray shops for cleaning the guns out. You spray it on the hull and it'll start to soften the anti-foul. You paint it on whatever you want to do, but it's all dripping off, it's all evaporating. You get newspaper, hold it up against the hull. Once it's got tacky, once the anti-foul's got tacky with the gun wash you put on, put a newspaper up there and again coat the back of it. So you might actually be using something like a metal automotive spray gun, something that acetone can flow through without damaging the internals. Spray it on the back of the newspaper and you'll get some newspaper sticking to the hull. It's tricky to do. You'll realize that the paint goes tacky, and then you can like squidge the newspaper on, and then you can put more acetone on the outside of it, and you're going to be buying the acetone in like, you know, a 5-gallon drum of it. You're not messing around with pots. You're getting this from, in the UK, it'd be someone like Brown's Brothers, whoever provides supplies to automotive spray shops. That's the kind of thing you want to be getting it from. So we get that, we spray it on, stick the newspaper on, get it to stick. It's a bit kind of hit and miss, but it means that the paper acts as a wick and holds the gun wash onto the antifoul, and then afterwards you'll be able to go around with a scraper and scraper it off. So I've been away from the job myself for like 2 days for the weekend. This is where I left it Friday. You can see I brought the paint up to within, you know, at this distance, that's like a couple of inches, and then the idea is to get the staging over here. Obviously this ground is not conducive to moving staging around, so it's quite the physical thing. So I've got this side I taped and I painted up to it. You can see I've moved the props. These ones are under a lot of tension. Because I removed all the ones at the front, the boat will have angled back slightly, not in some catastrophic way, but enough that you then can't take these off. So if you haven't done this kind of stuff before, don't do it on your boat. I have a pretty good idea what's going on here, plus half the weight of the boat is resting on the ground. This is a very different prospect, but the front one's all done. 3 here, I will have them lift up the back of the boat on the morning that we're getting the launch, and we'll put those last bits of antifoul on. The taping job now, I need to go up these, put the tape on, get that sorted out. I'm not going to paint the stripes. If there's any update today, it's that I'm not going to paint the stripes. There is not enough time. So I'm going to take the grey and red paint that's over there, and we're going to take it back to the parts department and swap it out for white paint, and we'll paint the deck, which is a much more like achievable grind operation and that will mechanically stick to the deck even if you do it quickly. Putting single pot paint on this line, if it's not prepped properly, will be a disaster. It'll be coming off in streaks, and it'll be grey paint with orange underneath it falling off the boat. It will look terrible. So we've got a lot of jobs that are like 95% finished. We've got to sort those out. But color wise, and just get out the sun here a little bit, you can see I've gone for red on the keel bulb and red on the rudder. I'll explain, like, if the boat ends up in the worst case scenario, which is upside down, how exactly it would be doing that with the keel on, I don't know, but we're going to have things sticking out of the bottom of the boat which are more visible, which create contrast. What I would like them to be is the highly visible, I think there's a green one, a pink one, an orange one. You can get like antifouls in neon colors. But they are extraordinarily expensive to put on. We are still in a position now where we've got the keel blade has got the Interprotect on it, and it's got the antifoul on it. 4 layers of Interprotect, so 2 layers. People asking me exactly what I did. I did 2 layers on the metal, put my filler on, faired everything, and put 2 layers on top of that of Interprotect. And then antifoul, 2 coats of antifoul on the outside. Red this time because this is no more expensive than putting some antifoul on, and if I can't get to that position of like neon fantasticness, at least I'll do this, and at least it might be a bit better for no extra cost. And I would say, if you have fears of like the worst case scenario for your sailing is that you end up upside down the boat, why wouldn't you do this? It could only be because it wasn't fashionable in your boatyard. It's clearly a good idea. So up here on the prop shaft, antifoul on the P bracket. The P bracket is made from the same weld ox as the keel, very, very strong. And again, only a couple layers of Interprotect on there because that needs media blasting. It's a very difficult service to get into and sand in the amount of time I've got available. It's only small, so I just basically put 1 layer of Interprotect on it, and 1 or 2, I can't remember now. I think maybe 2 actually, and then 1 coat of antifoul. The idea being that I leave very, very thin but looking aesthetically good areas I know I'm going to have to come back to, and then I'm not having to waste loads of media and time getting the paint back off. The keel now is as it's going to be for probably 3 years before we come back and media blast it. It's got 4 layers of Interprotect and 2 of antifoul. The body of the boat has just had, or the canoe body of the boat has only got 1 thin layer of aesthetically pleasing antifoul on it, because I think within 100 days we're going to take that off and start again. So the P bracket, It's too complicated to do well, so it's on the same regimen as the rest of the hull. So it's just a couple of layers of Interprotect, because you've got to cover metal with epoxy paint. That's crazy just to put Antifoul on it, but then just thin Antifoul on top. The propeller is, remember, in a very, very sad state of repair. It's still strong, it's still structural. It's probably motored 700 miles since we had the issue with it, but we saw that little video of Ken, JB welding the whole thing together. That is a fixed prop at the moment. It is heavily pitted from whatever's been going on in its lifetime, so I just put Interprotect on it. It's epoxy. It's not designed to be on a surface that's moving very, very fast, so it will wear. If it can wear the metal, it will certainly wear the Interprotect, but it's better than nothing, and it helps to fair out the surface of the blade. When something like that is moving, you've got a subcavitating foil moving through the water at the root of the propeller blade, and you've got a supercavitating foil operating on the tip, and when those bubbles of gas break off and then implode as the pressure changes once again as the water moves away from the tip, those explosions, or implosions are so explosive. I mean, God, this is very different. Those implosions are so strong that they will break off the surface of the metal. That's cavitation, right? So what we want to do is avoid too many things that create a turbulent surface on the foil of the blade. Otherwise it induces a supercavitating, subcavitating kind of fluctuation, and it's more cavitation comes where there's a rougher surface. Whew, it's gonna be some hydrodynamicists like shaking their fists in the comments. Writing comments also helps with the algorithm here. All right, so we've got, just one. These are all painted. These are all painted. So these are all moved and painted in. So we've got, basically what this is everything you can get to from below is done on this side. I need to bring the staging around in one arc, because that's going to be 1,000 calories to move that around. I'm not having it where I've got to be up high as it travels down that side, doing the paint up by the tape, and then when it gets to the end and comes down this side, I'll be taping and painting as we go down the side of the boat. So it's just a minimum movement. It should end up over there by the end of this session today, and I've only moved it once, not backwards forwards. So we're looking pretty good. Like, the thing is, the rudder, we can see here I've got the differently colored Antifoul on. The red Antifoul on is a bit of contrast. I feel like I've got to get in on top of the rudder, so maybe when we go up we'll move the wheel. Everything's dry now. Move the wheel to a different position. We'll be able to get at any bits we've missed above the rudder. We've got our little kelp cutter, got a special mention as it became part of it. If I ask you guys questions, I realise you're like, hey, I cracked the thumbs. Here, let's have a chat. What could I ask a question about today? Well, I'll ask a question in the comments. Like, my understanding is that there's a lot to be said for having a turbulent flow across the hull, which then creates less drag as it's able to recoalesce and kind of come back together quicker behind the boat. That this three-dimensional hydrodynamic game that's going on underneath the boat is better served, like a golf ball traveling through the breeze. Those dots, or the dimples that are in it rather, are intentional. We all know this, right? If the ball was absolutely spherical, it would not, I think it would go like a half to 2/3 of the distance. It's a massive distance increase from having the dimples. The dimples create a turbulent boundary layer between the foil and or turbulent flow rather, across the foil where the water passes by it, but that is able to come together quicker than a laminar flow, a smooth flow, which then can often end with which can then end up with low pressure behind the foil, induced drag. So my theory with this is that if nature wanted things that move really, really efficiently underwater to be absolutely smooth, they would be. And some are, like eels and fish seem to have some kind of like slimy surface on them. But when I think of like really old species that have been doing this for a long time, I think of sharks. And sharks are not smooth. If you've ever touched shark, you can buy shark steaks in the UK at booths. I remember doing it when I was at university. It was quite a surprise to see it there in the fish section. Shark, but they are quite smooth. They are quite rough rather. The skin is not smooth. It's rough like sandpaper, like 80 grit. So although this is a mess now of like bigger pits and follies, which I would rather not have on there from pride of ownership, the roughness of the paint is something I'm actively seeking. When you've got this much force going through the water, like I saw someone in the comments, I love reading all the comments, because even if I don't agree with them, I see like another person's perspective, and learning is done, right? We are not lacking horsepower. Okay, so when we're helming at like 15 knots, something like that, and you're going down waves, like it's kind of like a little bit different than your boat, potentially, unless you've done that kind of thing. If you've been like clipper crew, if you've helmed like a 50-foot or something like that, there is a wild dynamic of being on the back of this giant sled, which, okay, you say I was doing 15 knots, it's like what, 30 kilometers an hour? That just can't be that exciting. Well, try and drive a 4x4 vehicle over steeply undulating land at 30 kilometers an hour, like dune buggy, something like that. It can get pretty exciting pretty quickly, and then the nature of the fact that that surface is moving around and that you can surf on parts of it means that we're searching always for more and more horsepower to make more and more efficient use of the forces that are around us. The waves, our ability to cut through the waves, to accelerate when we are slowed down, ballast, all the rest of it. That entire game ends up with a magical experience, which, like for me, I've never sailed trimarans at doing 25-30 knots. That must be another thing again, or I mock as at foiling, but the bit I like is going up rough seas and reaching across rough seas, which those boats are not really designed for. But to be in motion upwind at 10 knots, no one is going any faster than 10 knots upwind, by the way. We can discuss that another time. There is a maximum speed you can go upwind. It's 10 knots. If you don't believe me, put it in the comments, I'll explain. But no one is going faster than that, but you could be tighter to the wind doing it, and then more dynamic as you pass over the waves. In that situation where horsepower is not an issue, where the forces around us are so massive, the only thing that remains as something I'd kind of like to get rid of is induced drag from the hull. So I'm very, very keen on that as being, if I think of this boat in the water, let's imagine she's heeling over at like 22 degrees, that's where she likes to fly. Oh look, some more foils in operation here. We just live in the boundary layer between aerodynamics and like hydrodynamics, but it's all the same thing, right? Pretty well understood, all this stuff. So if we have a slightly turbulent flow across the surface of this thing, it helps to smooth out all these positions where there are the ends of foils, the ends of apertures, the ends of... Now, let's not talk about that propeller. Obviously, we're not... That propeller in that situation like that is slowly turning, which is better than a fixed prop. If you don't believe me, put it in the comments. A slowly rotating propeller is much more efficient hydrodynamically than a fixed propeller. Look it up, okay? I hear that so often. It's definitely more efficient. But our prop can turn, but we'll go back to a feathered prop. But if we have a slightly turbulent flow, these appendages sticking out from the boat, if we can kind of like make them pretty smooth, the turbulent flow will come back together more smoothly and we'll have less induced drag from them. People are very keen on it. Pardon me, people are very keen on it being absolutely smooth. Now, if you're operating in the kind of environment that plane was flying through, that kind of like drag on the surface would have a big effect over the area that's required of the jet to be in its medium, which is the entirety. Only this part of the boat is in the water, and the horsepower is being developed by all the rest of it. When she's sailing and she's heeling over at like 22 degrees, which is her best angle, what is the shape of what's going on underwater here? It's kind of cut through the bottom of the hull and then kind of comes out over here somewhere above the waterline, right? So then we have to think of the underbody of the boat as being asymmetrical, and that this keel is not going to be here up and down traveling through the water, it's going to be over here. Okay, so now if it's over here, 22 degrees sticking out here, and it's a foil traveling through the water, what action is it having? It has an up and down component, as well as, well, actually there's a forwards and backwards component because the boat's pitching, and it's got this, what's that, sway? Is that sway? Blimey, all these words, eh? What's going to mean is that its shape is not driving the boat, is not just being lateral resistance, but is being some kind of like lifting and deflecting foil that's affecting the rest of the boat. The water that is streaming under the boat at 20 knots, which is, obviously you imagine water pressure increases pretty seriously. If you move your hand through the water slowly, okay, that move it like twice as fast, it's like, oh, it's like 4 times as hard. It's like it increases very, very quickly over the surface of the hull. All of this lot jostling along in turbulent waters being broken by the bow. The most important thing is to get the water flow back together again as quickly as possible, because we cannot control anything else. And my belief, like sharks, is that that is best done by having a slightly roughened surface to the bottom of the boat. I'd love to hear comments from folks, even if it's just how you feel about it, because there's a lot of art to this as well. Maybe it's the way I drive the boat, but again, for this kind of boat, when you're coming off a wave and you're going from like 15 knots up to 20, 22 knots and it's really humming, the thing is like alive to the touch, and the amount of wheel you can put in, you are spinning the wheel like a rally driver. And that's why I tell people when they're driving these boats, this is rallying. This is not like Formula One where it's like really precise stuff. That is actual racing. That's Olympic racing. I imagine that's like GP, the catamarans, that kind of racing. This is not that. Upwind in this boat, this is rally driving at its very best, and off the waves surfing at the kind of reaching angles I like.